It looks like we're live. Hey, what's up, guys? This is T-Bone here. Welcome back to another episode of playing Legendary Game of Heroes. It is Tuesday, so we are going to be doing our Tuesday review. And once again, I need to change the banner here so that we make sure that we have the right one. So when people come in and see it, they'll know that we're talking about the correct event. All right, so it's been a week since I was able to make any videos whatsoever. So the last time I was on was actually when we did the preview for the Light Arcane event, and I gotta say that particular deck worked really, really well if you had the Brothers in Banditry. All right, so that particular deck worked out well because you had a card that was able to give itself additional 300% damage boost. So a lot of people who had that card, they were basically doing lots of quadrillion worth of damage. So hopefully you guys had a good event. Hope you enjoy it. We're going to take a look at this particular event. We're going to take a look at the cards, and we're going to see whether this is going to be another good deck, because it is an Light Arcane deck, and I have really terrible arcane cards for Light Slayer. So I'm going to hope for some good cards, but you know, I am also really just waiting for. I'm playing the true like free to play style right now, where I am just saving up my coins little by little over the course of 5 events. So I'm going to have enough to get 2 cards by the Fire Commander event. So if I do get a card and I get lucky this time, I'm not going to forge a team because I do want to save it for the next event. So the hope is that we get something. And then if I do, I can show it, but at least I can still talk through some of this because this has a very similar mechanic that we've already seen before. So I just want to say hi to everybody in the chat. So thanks for joining us. We've got Vancouver, BC, and also we've got UAE. All right, from halfway across the world. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our usual polls, I suppose. We're going to go ahead and pull. I think I can go up to 3 tiers. And if I do 3 tiers now, I will have just enough with all the collections to open up to, or to craft 2 cards next event. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to take a look, and I'm going to talk about all of the cards. I think the Ultimate Form is pretty good this time, and I'm going to talk to you about why I think it is. And of course, if you had a chance to read through the cards, you probably already feel that it's a really good ability and all. So we'll just go ahead and see how I do this particular season. This event hasn't been really good this season wise. So you know, in terms of the polls, I've mentioned this before. My luck goes up and down, and right now it's kind of in a little of a downward turn where I'm not really getting anything good. But as I mentioned from the very beginning of this season, my goal here is to just write it out. I'm going to just focus on saving my coins for the fire event and just build a really good, solid fire, arsenal, so that at least once a season I can do really well. That's my hope. Thank you, Philip. I do wish for good luck as well. And so let's see. We got our support card. This is Noita Lifelight, and as we take a look at the cards, you might also have noticed that this entire team is all female. We don't typically see that. They usually always try to balance it out with, some male, some female, some just non-human life forms. But I think it's kind of nice to sort of see, various representation here. So let's go ahead and do our 3rd tier, right? So it's 1400 gems, and I got 1877. So we can go ahead and do one more pull right there. So far I've got 1 support card, and I'll at least get 1 relic. So if nothing else, I'll get a relic from it, and we'll see if I can get anything more. It doesn't look like it. So this is the guaranteed event relic. I saw a gold one. I was kind of secretly hoping that it would be an extra one, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So get 1 support card and 1 event card. Now the question is going to be like, what can I do with that? Well, we will talk about some of the other options that you could go with, and we'll see how it works out, right? We'll see how it works out. So let's go ahead and take a look at the cards now. Since I don't actually have it, we will just start with what's in the vault here. And let's see. ISJ, you came from Khan's Discord. Oh, nice. So that's how you saw it. That was streaming. Nice. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got the ultimate form here, Bewitching Conjurers. And this particular card, as I mentioned, is an arcane killer card. And for the battle skill, it has a 1-turn cooldown. All right, creates 4 light power gem 6s. In terms of like the total number of power gems, it may not seem like a lot, but keep in mind it has a 1-turn cooldown, and this can be reset. So we're seeing another reset deck. We saw this last time, I think, with a dark deck, and we know that the dark deck is actually really good in its ability to be able to reset. And this has a 1-turn cooldown, so basically that means you can activate already every single turn, and you could activate this twice in a single turn. So you can actually get up to 8 power gem 6s, and every time you activate, you also increase the Light Slayer attack by 20%. Now, Slayer increase 20%, 40% in a Slayer event is still not going to give you that significant of a change. But if you start stacking them up across multiple cards and then start getting to hundreds of percent of attack boost, then it is going to start, making you deal a little bit more damage than, more significant damage output. Okay, so that it does become a good it starts to add up, and it will work out well. And then we take a look at the passive ability. There are 4. Okay, there's 4 passive abilities for this particular card. We've got the passive ability that gives you a reset if you do a Gem Crush. Now with this is pretty easy to get Gem Crush every turn, and you can only do this once though. So you can only reset 1 time. It does not. I don't know that. Yeah, it doesn't allow you to reset more than once, because it says right here, once per turn, you will allow you will refresh the hero. Okay, so that's one. The second passive ability is that you cannot stop. We cannot silence this. So gem silence, power gem silence, it doesn't matter. You will always be able to activate this battle skill. So you're always going to get your power gems, and you're always going to get your attack. And then the third passive ability will create 2 light power gem 6s at the beginning of every turn. So here's where we're going to get additional power gems that we are sort of lacking. And then if you take a look at the fourth passive ability, this is really where I think the power comes from this particular card. So passive ability Banish Evil cleanses 1 debuff from each Light Slayer at the start of the turn. But it does have a 3-turn cooldown, so it's not that it's going to do this every single turn. It just means that at the beginning of the turn, it's going to dispel everything, and then it'll wait 3 turns, and then it'll automatically dispel again. But it's an automatic dispel. You don't, there's a guarantee. You don't have to worry about anything. So if you can last for 3 turns, you're going to be able to dispel whatever it is that you're hit with, whether it be Power Gem Silence, any sort of that debuff, right? Toxin, you name it. You will be able to get that dispel. So it's a really nice ability, and of course it's not like every single turn you'll do it, because otherwise then it's going to be the most powerful card ever in the game. But this still is a really nice ability. So as far as the ultimate form goes, I feel like this is it's not going to seem like an overpowered card, but I think it's nice balance. Like if you like to play with Light Slayer cards, then this will give you that nice sort of balance of like being able to get your power gems, you being able to play it quickly, like every single turn you'll be able to activate. You can get your power gems. You could get some little attack boost, which then powers up other cards that will have that passive ability to say, hey, create more power gems if you have an attack boost, for example. So like Supreme Alahim, for example, will work really well with this deck. And also the passive ability to dispel is nice. So let's take a look at the Master Collection card. This is Great Mother Hazel. And this card gives you 18 power gems. So now this is a very interestingly like a completely different skill set, where you create power gem 6s, but you do 6 at a time. So for the course of 3 turns, you create 6 power gems. So this is something that we've seen in, Exalted Champions, and basically all of those Fire Commander decks behave this way, where it's like 6 power gems, and then you do over 3 turns. That's a 3-turn cooldown. So basically you can activate it every single turn. And because you cannot silence it, you're going to be guaranteed to be able to activate it. It also cleanses a debuff. So this is an active cleanse. So again, every 3 turns, now you can choose, right? You can choose to add to do a debuff when you want to, instead of the passive ability from the ultimate form. So now between your Master Collection card and your ultimate form, you could actually cleanse basically every turn if you wanted to. All right, you can actually stagger when you activate, so then you could ensure that in like a GVG case, you could stagger, so you could cleanse every single turn if you wanted to, provided you have 1 ultimate form, 1 2 Master Collection cards, and then you'll be able to basically cleanse every single turn if you stagger them that way. So that's the ability here, and we are dealing with chaos here. So chaos is going to be the one that's going to make it difficult for, like, hey, create power gems every single turn, or like at the end of the turn when you attack, spawn a bunch of power gems, because at the beginning of the turn, then they'll be destroyed. So that's how chaos works. And in some situations, some decks are really weak against chaos because of that. The ultimate form has blind, so blind is not really too big of a deal. In fact, we have a lot of cards that now will guarantee to dispel blind too, if you wanted to use that. So it's just a little bit annoying that sometimes you don't get your attack in, but generally it's lesser. It's not as bad as some of the other debuffs that we've seen. Now we'll take a look at the ultra rare card, the Enchantress Noita. All right, this card will create 4 power gem 6s, and it also increases Light Slayer attack by 20% for a turn, and you can reset it. So this one is another card that has a 1 turn cooldown. Not a whole lot of power gems on its own, 4 and then 2 at the beginning. So a total of 6 power gem 6s. Not going to be your biggest gem spawner, but then if you take a look at Master Collection card, it's the same thing, 6 power gems. So this whole deck isn't like a massive power gem spawner with lots and lots of gem crushers all the time, but because you can reset it, it kind of makes up for it. And the passive ability here, this is the one that allows you to reset. So between your ultra rare card, your Master Collection card, and your ultimate form, you're basically looking at, every turn you're going to reset, and you're going to be able to activate your ultra rare card and ultimate form every single turn. You're probably going to want, depending on the situation, you're probably going to activate everything altogether if you don't need the cleanse every single turn. And you should still get a good set of power gems, plus all of the attack boost. And because this is arcane, you could theoretically also bring in, any other arcane boost heroes if you wanted to get that additional oomph. But because I don't have the previous Light Slayer deck, I can't quite remember the ability of it, so I can't really say whether that's going to give you that much help or not. Let's take a look at the support card and also the main event card. So the main event card is Apprentice Sybil, and this card gives you 12 Light Power Gem 6s, and this is, Power Gem 4s. And this will create it at 4 per turn for 3 turns. And then it also does a cleanse for single debuff for a single Slayer card. And so it's not quite as powerful, but it is a cleanse so that it does help in that situation. No passive abilities though, so it's just a very basic sort of gem spawner. It's not quite that powerful because you're doing only 4 per turn. And this can be silenced, but you can dispel 1 card. But I think that because it's not unstoppable, I'm not sure Power Gem Silence will hit this, right? So far we have Chaos and Blind, and here's another Chaos. Let's take a look at the support card and see what it counters. So the support card, which I have, Noita Lifelight, creates 6 light regular gems, and it heals for 10,000 hero recovery and a 1 turn cooldown. So you can use this card to basically fill up the board or heal if you need to. In a Slayer event, it's not quite as important though, to be honest with you. And that's pretty much it. Right? So very very, it is very how do I say this? Basic. This nothing really special about this particular card, and it also dispels blind. So far we've only seen blind and chaos. Did we take a look at the ultimate form? So blind. Did I see? Yeah. So that's all right. Blind and chaos. I'm not seeing a third one. Oh, here it is. Regular gem silence. So the ultra rare card will dispel regular gem silence, but because your ultimate form cannot be stopped, this will not impact it even if you don't dispel it. So that's, if you don't dispel it, it's still passively dispel it. So like it's not really going to be an issue at all for it. 20% times the Reaper. So when it comes to attack boost, it's additive. So if it's 20%, it's not going. It's going to be 40%, right? It's different calculation than damage boost. So attack boost and damage boost are calculated a little bit differently. For attack boost, it's additive. So like however many times it resets, for example, you just keep adding that number of attack boost. So what do I think about this deck? If we kind of go over like the pros and cons of this, I think the good thing about this deck is it's passive guaranteed ability to cleanse, okay, from the ultimate form. And also the refresh just allows you to activate more, right? But because it's a little bit weaker on the power gem spawning side, it kind of needs that reset just to be able to compete against some of the other cards that we've seen. The Master Collection card to me feels like it's a little bit better in that you cannot silence this card, okay? And you can choose when you want to cleanse the debuff. Right, so you cannot be stopped. So you can always activate the power skill, and whenever you activate power skill, the battle skill, you're going to be able to cleanse the debuff, and it gives you 6 power gems right away, as opposed to with the ultra rare card, what it gives you is 4 power gems every single turn, so you can activate every single turn. But like if you just but in a Slayer event, you're not really looking to do like every single turn activate something. You're trying to build up a big attack. And so you're more likely to activate everything all at once anyway. And you're going to want to activate it all at once so you can maximize your power gems. And so in this particular situation, I've noticed when it's just a card within an entire deck that you can activate once per turn, it doesn't really end up being as useful as you think would be. Like I'll activate it in between while I'm waiting, but really the power comes in when I can activate all at once, right? And so it is kind of that balance, I think. So this deck feels a little bit, it feels balanced to me. Like it's not overpowered, it's not really like weak. I've heard some people mention to me that they think it's a good deck, and I think that there's good abilities. There's good abilities that this deck gives you. And ultimately it comes down to the Dispel. The Dispel is good. And whether or not I think that this is a deck that I will go after, if I had 84 coins, would I go for this deck? It depends, right? So if you take a look at my Light Slayer cards, and then here we are, right? So here are all my Light Slayer cards. I don't have any good Light Slayer arcane decks. The only one that I have that is an ultimate form is Apocalypse Hellboy. It's at 1 star, so that means I'm getting a 400% damage boost, which is already the same thing as my support card and event card. But it does gives me a little bit of power gems, and so will I use that particular? Will I use that for this event? Probably only because I can use my Supreme Elohim. Okay, so if you take a look at Supreme Elohim, it is a Light Slayer card, and what it does is it will give you a power gem spawn for every, let's see, so for every attack boost that you get, you're going to spawn more power gems. Okay, yeah, that's a passive ability here, where it creates 2 light power gems every time an attack or damage buff is activated. And so if you think about it, with Reset and Supreme Elohim, you can actually basically create a bunch of power gems, reset, create a bunch of power gems again. And so I think that it would be a really nice addition. And then if you can get a killer skill to go with it, you'll be able to deal additional damage, because this one increases Light Slayer attack by 140%. So right away, that's already better than what the Ultimate Form card can give you. But if you combine this, then you're getting additional attack here. So that is going to be helpful. And William D, you're mentioning that the Ultra Rare card can spawn 8 power gems per turn. I think you're talking about with reset in mind, right? So assuming that you can do a reset, then yes, the ultra rare card then can give you more, but then you're gonna have to pair it with cards that will be able to give you, and that's where I think this is where, if you're using the ultra rare card, adding Supreme Elohim will almost guarantee that you'll be able to do gem crushes every single turn, so you'll be able to use that. So that's a card that I highly recommend. Another card that you can use, Silent Knights. This is an immortal killer card, so you can use this, pair it with like an immortal killer attack boost, for example, or something. What this does is, it also has a 1 turn cooldown, also increases Light Slayer attack, and it also creates additional power gems when a card activates a battle skill. So this also works really well with a reset deck, where you're basically going to reset, activate your power gem battle skills multiple times, and every time you activate a battle skill, you are also creating a light power gem 6. So this is another card that you'll want to throw into your deck that can then spawn more power gems and just make it make it more powerful. And this is a passive. So the passive ability gives you a heal whenever you attack. So then, so you're not really impacted by it, even by toxin, because this is just on attack, not on a battle skill. But I think Silent Knights, Supreme Elohim, these are all pretty good cards, I think, that you could insert to this deck. Unfortunately, I don't have the previous Light Arcane Slayer deck. I'm sure it's going to work well in this situation also. All right, so there's a lot of choices. Other cards in here, Enlightened Yokai, Relentless Scholars, these cards are a little bit older. So like Relentless Scholars gives you a nuke damage, 150%. So like this can be useful, but in a Slayer event, this is going to be sort of situational. Like you can use this in there, but you're not likely to it's not likely going to be the MVP of the deck all the time, but it could work really well in some situations. And Enlightened Yokai still is a good excuse me, just pretty good power gem spawner. And this one it also works well with healing decks. So like if cards will heal, then you could also create power gems along with this. That's sort of like an older ability. I can't remember whether it's passive or not. I think you have to activate it first, and then when there are cards that heal, you create more power gems. But Supreme Enlightened Yokai, one of the really awesome decks back in the day. I don't think it's necessarily bad. You just want to make sure that you can have a killer skill to go along with it. Auspicious Defender Guardians. This one kind of works out by countering buffs, but we don't actually have any buffs to worry about in this particular situation, and so this is not this is okay. But you need to have beast intensity in order to really make this deck work. Not really my favorite of the lot there. And then if you take a look at there was a question, Divine Sovereign, right? So this is, now we're talking about Commander. So if we take a look at Commander, Divine Sovereign is a arcane killer card. Let's take a look at the skills here, right? So what this will give you is, this gives you a ability to pass the damage by 500% damage boost to a card, and then it will also have a bonus attack. And so even though it doesn't have the Slayer bonus, I think that if you have nothing else, you could at least use this and benefit from the 500% damage boost to get some good damage out of it. Because what you're getting is, you're getting the 900% damage boost, and then you're getting an additional 5 on top of that. So it's going to be similar. It's going to be a little bit better than having your event card or support card, which has a 4 times Slayer bonus. This one will give you 5 times. So you're not going to deal a ton of damage, though. Keep that in mind. You're not dealing a ton of damage, but this will be as if you have a Slayer card that has the killer boost at 500%. That's really the way to think about it. And it gives you a revive, and you get 6 power gems at the beginning of every turn. So this can be a good card to use if you have no other options. Generally, Commander cards won't work as well in Slayer events unless you have the ability to do lots and lots of damage boost. And so an example would be like the previous Earth deck, which is Earth Commander. In this particular situation, Brothers in Banditry gives you 300% damage boost, and then you pair that with a previous deck, which I don't have, that gives you multiple power damage boost. Then it can also add up, but I don't think you're able to get up to 500 with even previous decks. So like, I think unless you can get up to really high damage boost, you're still not going to be able to compete with a regular Slayer card with attack boost. But like I said, it is situational. It depends on the cards that you have. So if you don't have any light Slayer cards, then yes, go ahead and use the Commander card. And there are still a lot of cards that are really good at, like for example, Haunted Hunters along with Divine Sovereigns. Haunted Hunters also gives itself additional damage boost. You can give itself additional 120% damage. So You can use the Divine Sovereigns, give Haunted Hunters at 500%, then give itself an additional 120% damage, and suddenly you're getting your damage is getting up there with this commander card. And so that is something that I am willing to try. And then you also have the Afterlife Alliance, which again gives an additional 70% damage boost to light commander. So this will start stacking up. You got the Afterlife Alliance with the 70%. You've got Divine Sovereigns for 500%. You got Haunted Hunters for 120%. And so you're going to see relatively decent damage on a single card. In this case, it's going to be Haunted Hunters. You're going to see a decent damage on this card. And if you put in the Ultra Rare card in this deck, then you'll be able to use 2 cards that can do pretty good damage. So I think that it is possible. I think that it is actually possible to get some damage, but keep in mind that Haunted Hunters, you only get the maximum damage output if you've attacked 6 times already. So on turn 0, this card effectively will not give you any boost. I don't think. Yeah, on turn 0, I think you start with none, right? Immediately removes. Yeah, you have to consume the Alchemize and increase by. I don't know if you start with a stack. I can't quite remember if you could have a Alchemized at the beginning, right? I don't think this one starts with Alchemized. So I'm talking about now like turn 0, because this is a Slayer event. You need to be able to do turn 0 damage. Haunted Hunters will not have as big of an impact only when you've attacked 6 times. You're not going to be able to attack 6 times in Slayer events, so I don't think the Haunted Hunters is really actually going to be as beneficial. And so in fact, I think what's going to be better for turn 0 damage is probably going to be a combination of Afterlife Alliance plus Divine Sovereigns. Again, this is only if you're thinking about using Light Commander. Yes, like this is not a deck where you're going to really be able to take advantage of the Light Slayer cards. But like I say, if you're really going to be using Light Commander cards, it's probably because you don't have any Slayer cards to go with it. So that's why I'm giving this suggestion, right? I'm not saying that you should use the Commander card. I'm saying if you don't have any other options, look into the Commander cards. You might be able to do better than going with a Slayer deck that doesn't actually give you anything at all, okay? So like for me, it's going to come down to this, right? Like if I were to have a deck that's like this, where I'm benefiting from the 400% damage boost from Hellboy, I can at least use Supreme Elohim. I could still use Silent Knight. These 2 cards will work off of each other pretty well. And I probably will take out this in favor of that for now. I don't know. I'm going to probably play around a little bit, or I might actually put in Raquel in here for the additional boost. But in sort of like, I'll probably play around with this a little bit, but it'll be something like this that I'm going to go with. And so let's see. So you think that Divine Sovereigns can actually hit turn 0? Yeah, like I think you can, right? Because you will be able to Gem Crush, you will be able to power up all of your cards. The question is, are you going to be able to turn 0 for MVP, or are you going to be able to turn 0 for 50% without the Slayer boost, right? Without the Slayer boost, you shouldn't expect to get as good of a damage as an event deck. But I think that if you're using Divine Sovereigns, you might actually do comparable to somebody who is not using the event deck, like somebody like me, right? Somebody like me who is using a very, very old Ultimate Form for 400% damage boost. You might actually outdamage me in some situations, right? Depending on the cards I have. And so I think that it's usable. It's just not the best solution. Okay. So let's see. So I think that, for me, that is sort of what I wanted to cover. With Light Slayer, if you have this particular event deck, like I said, Silent Knight and Supreme Elohim is going to be your best option. If you're going Commander, then it's going to be Divine Sovereigns paired up with Afterlife Alliance. That's going to give you the best option. So Jailers, if you wanted to use Jailers with that deck, the thing is you need to be able to either activate jailers, or you need a card that does turn delay. None of these cards give you turn delay. Oh, okay. So you're talking about using Starborn Sentinel. So Starborn Sentinel does give you turn delay, so you can go with that. But you're gonna have to, like, if you want to maximize your damage, you're gonna want to make sure that you can activate jailers as well. So you're gonna have to play around with the relics a little bit. So I am definitely a fan of, you know, using the boost card whenever you could. So in this case, we have I mean, there's multiple choices, right? If you look at the Arcane Killer, we're talking about Slayer decks. Like, you could even do this, right? You can even power up using the Lost Kingdom Guardians, because this also gives you a turn delay. So you can use this, power up your jailers, and then you have your three Slayer cards for Arcane, for Light, that you can probably deal some damage. Like, people have also used this because what you do is you get the Lost Kingdom Guardians to fill up some space, and then you activate, sort of like fill out the rest, and then that could sometimes give you a nice board to activate, and you power up your jailers that way. So that is one thing to consider, although I think that's more difficult to pull off. And yes, you definitely need relics in order to really accomplish that. But if you take a look at some of the other Slayer cards that are Arcane, or not Slayer, Arcane cards that are Commander, we have a couple of options, really. There is, like I said, there is jailers, and then you can still get that in the Proving Ground, so it is still going to be useful. You could also use, what's the other one I was thinking about? If it's Arcane, Circuit Break Hilaria, right? You can also use that if you wanted to. That one you can passively create power gems, but you need to increase your arcane intensity, and you're you really need two of those cards, and so that may or may not work, but you need time to build up, right? So, like, there's options, but they're not great options. So I think that, you know, if you have Light Slayer cards that you can get some power killer skills with, I think that's going to be your best choice. Supreme Elhim and Silent Knights is going to be available in the shop also, right? So it's going to be in the Revival Vault, so that is probably something that you will be able to go after if you're missing that. But it is a Revival Vault, so chances of getting it is going to be a little bit lower. So those are going to be my just thinking out loud. That's what I will go with. So the question here: will I make season ultimate form rankings? I'll probably talk about it. In the next season. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to really do the sort of ultimate form rankings if I have the time. I've been really, really, really busy lately, and I haven't really had the time. I couldn't even open up the phone this afternoon to look at the cards until just now. And so if I can find the time to do something, I might. But I will at least for sure talk about it in the next preview. Okay. And that'll also be the time when I talk about what you should go after in the Proving Ground store. Although for this particular season, I've already mentioned it a few times. Definitely going to be jailers first. And then after that is going to be Perceptive Gurus. That would be my recommendation for the Proving Ground store if you're still on the fence about it. So that's going to be it for me for today, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. Hopefully this sort of, hopefully this has been useful for you. Like I said, this is going to be a deck that I think will be okay in terms of, but the resetability and the resetability and also the counter is going to be really good. And if you have Supreme Elhim and Silent Knights, I think that will make this deck even better. So let me know in the comment below if you do have the deck, whether you agree with my assessment or not, or if maybe there are things that you would like to correct me. Feel free to let me know. Always looking for good feedback there. So that's going to be it. That's going to be it for me for today. And I will talk to you guys in the next episode.